Modern life is making us strange. There was a time when calling someone was completely normal. You wanted to speak to someone, you called them. Simple. Now, a phone call can feel like an event. Welcome, come on in, get comfy and let's sit for a while. Because today we need to talk about something that has quietly become strangely stressful. And that is making a phone call. Because these days most of us don't just call someone anymore. First, we think about it. Then we delay it. Then we stare at the phone for a while as if it might somehow make the call on its own. And if the call is particularly important, then it becomes a whole process. You start rehearsing, not dramatically, just quietly. You think about what you're going to say, how you're going to start. You prepare for possible questions. You somehow prepare for scenarios that are extremely unlikely. And despite all this preparation, the second the person answers, your mind goes completely blank. And then there's timing. Because now, calling someone without warning feels almost aggressive. You can't just call. Nope, you send a message first. Is now a good time for a quick call? Which is essentially asking permission to use the phone for the thing it was originally designed for. And heaven help us all when someone calls unexpectedly. Your phone rings and immediately your whole nervous system reacts. You stare at it, watching it ring, trying to decide, should I answer? Why are they calling? Is something wrong? And if they don't leave a message, even worse. Now you're left with a mystery. And speaking of things no one enjoys anymore, voicemail. At this point, receiving a voicemail feels deeply unsettling, partly because nobody does it anymore, and partly because listening to your own recorded greeting is a genuinely uncomfortable experience. Who is that person? Why did they sound like that? And why did we all collectively decide that this was acceptable? And somewhere in all of this, you start to realise it's not really about the phone call itself. Something else has changed. The way we communicate, the way we respond, the way we think about being immediately available. And then, even if you successfully make the call, you still have another problem. Ending it. Because somehow nobody knows how to finish a phone conversation naturally anymore. You say goodbye once, but the call doesn't end. So now you're trapped in this strange loop of, all right then, okay, right, lovely, speak soon. Neither person quite willing to be the one who actually hangs up. And eventually someone has to make the final move, which somehow feels slightly rude. And let's be honest, there have definitely been moments where people have pretended the signal was breaking up. Not dramatically, just enough to create a believable exit. You're breaking up a bit. No one questions it. We all accept it. Because deep down we all understand the assignment. And while we're here, can we talk about speakerphone people? The people who take calls in public, holding the phone completely flat like a piece of toast, having deeply personal conversations at full volume, while everyone nearby becomes unwillingly involved. And somehow they seem completely relaxed about it, which honestly might be the most impressive part. And then modern life added video calls, which introduced a completely new level of stress. Because now it's not enough to sound presentable. You also need to check your face, your lighting, your background, and whether there's something strange behind you. And no matter how many times it happens, seeing your own face suddenly appear on screen always feels slightly alarming. Then there's the tiny delay, that half-second moment where both people start talking at once, then both stop, then both say, "No, you go." and for a brief moment the entire conversation collapses. And perhaps the biggest lie of all, the phrase, "This will just be a quick call." It never is. No call described as quick has ever remained quick. That phrase is simply an opening statement, not a reliable estimate of time. And when you look at all of this together, it's honestly a little absurd. We have more ways to communicate than ever before, and yet somehow speaking on the phone has become one of the most stressful ones. And when you really stop and think about it, it's actually quite strange, because speaking on the phone used to be completely ordinary. No preparation, no anxiety. You just called someone. And now many of us treat a phone call like we're about to enter a formal negotiation. And perhaps a lot of this started when texting became the default, because texting gave us something phone calls never did. Time. Time to think. Time to edit. Time to delete a message, rewrite it, and then still wonder if it sounded strange. With texting, you can pause. You can carefully choose your words. You can respond later after pretending you just saw the message. Very useful. A phone call wants you immediately, right now. No editing, no thinking time, just your actual thoughts in real time, which suddenly feels far too exposed. Because on a call, you can't quietly disappear for 10 minutes to think of a better answer. You can't react with thumbs up. You actually have to speak, continuously, like some kind of live broadcast. And when you put it that way, the stress suddenly makes a lot more sense. And perhaps this is the funniest part of all. We're more connected than ever. We can instantly contact almost anyone at any time from almost anywhere. And yet many of us see an incoming phone call and react like we're being summoned. But underneath all the humour, there's probably something else happening too. Modern life is noisy, constantly available, constantly connected, messages, notifications, updates, and perhaps phone calls now feel different because they demand our full attention. Not eventually, immediately. And maybe that's why so many people now prefer messages. Not because we don't want connection, but because it's easier to manage connection in smaller pieces, at our own pace, with a little space to think. And honestly, maybe that's not entirely a bad thing. It's just different, slightly awkward, slightly ridiculous, but very human. And perhaps the next time your phone rings unexpectedly, instead of immediately panicking, you can simply remember that all of us are quietly reacting in exactly the same way, even the people calling. I'd love to ask, when your phone rings unexpectedly, do you answer it immediately or stare at it for a while, deciding what to do? Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Take gentle care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.